Um, I don't know if they have any of that anymore, do they?
No, not at the school.
We had a lot of scholastics in Taurus. They were studying to be a Jesuit, and that was part of their curriculum stuff.
Like you said, they come and teach?
Yeah, they taught us.
Okay.
Religion. They taught all kinds of things. Religion, physics, English, everything. Math.
Alright, so I'm just going to ask you about different topics that I have on here. So, do you remember anything about the Vietnam War? Or were you involved in any wars?
No, I remember I got married shortly before that, and they weren't taking married guys at the time, and then we had a baby, and right after that they started taking, they wouldn't take people that had children. So I'm just lucky, as lucky or not lucky, however you want to look at it. I never had to go to Vietnam.
Okay. And did you have any like thoughts on Vietnam or anything? Like, were you
No,
against?
just not really. I thought it was a typical war that we fight, that there's never, you don't really win it. It's just one of those.
That you're just involved in?
Yeah.
Just trying to do
kind of
something?
like Iraq and kind of, you know, what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
You're there to help out, but you don't really say, yeah, we won that war.
And now when you got married, can you tell us like what your occupation was at the time?
When I got married, I was 21. My wife was right out of high school. She was 18.
Okay.
I had no job.
No job?
I had no car.
No.
I had no money.
So.
And I can't believe that she decided she was going to marry me. But I got a job a week afterwards. I worked for Kroger's. I started out as an apprentice meat cutter, moved up to a journeyman meat cutter, and then after a year and a half, I became a head meat cutter, which was a meat manager.
Okay.
I was a meat manager for 5 years. I left and I went into meat sales for 2 years. Successful in that, but I decided that they cut my salary. They split my route because it got too big. I built it too big and they gave it to someone else, and I thought, I'm not going to do this just to have somebody else take part of my income. So I bought a store, a meat store. I worked at that for a year and a half, worked myself into the hospital because I was working too many hours, on my feet too much.
How many hours were you working a week?
I was working 16 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Trying to build a business, and so I got sick. I had to get out of that, and I went back to Kroger's in 1971, and I was there till 96.
Now, were you still like a head meat cutter?
Head meat cutter, yeah. They hired me back as an assistant, and I was an assistant for 6 months, and then I went back to be a head meat cutter.
Okay.
And then I always felt deep down in my heart that I was better than that. I knew I was capable of more. I just didn't know what it was or where I wanted to go. And finally in 91, since I was a meat cutter, I used to butcher deer on the side for guys during hunting season. I used to do 300 or 400 a year.
Wow.
And I finally got tired of that after 12 years. I put my kids through college and stuff like that with it. And then I decided I don't want to do this anymore. I was working too much, too hard. And so I made this video on how to butcher a deer.
Really?
And I thought, well, I'm going to sell this instead of doing the work. And as soon as I did that, I started getting all kinds of calls about, where can I buy this grinder, where can I buy this knife or a saw, and I got to thinking, nobody's doing this, nobody's selling this stuff, and people want to buy it. So I started selling a few things. I had about 20 items that I was selling. They'd see the video and I had my phone number on there. They'd call me I'd sell it to them. And I started doing hunting shows, and I got a lot of names from people at the show who were interested in the products. And I finally talked to my wife and told her, I said, I think I can make this happen. Because she was working also. And I said, if we could live on your salary for 2 years, I'd like to try this. And she said, she was with me all the way. So I quit my job at Kroger's after 35 years and started doing this. And
were you scared at first when you like?
I was scared to death. Absolutely, I was scared. Not just for me, but for my wife and my, you know, my family. Of course, our kids were all pretty much out of school, but you know, at 53 years old, that's how old I was. I thought, you mess this up, you're in big trouble. Yeah, I was scared to death, but I was very fortunate. Since nobody else was doing it, we were really the only ones in the country doing it. And it just took off. I mean, it was incredible. So I ran that business I did it part-time at home for a little bit, and then I went full-time, and when I went full-time in '96, I sold the business in 2006.
Now at that time, was the business like really local, or did it spread out? It spread out a lot.
It was international.
Really?
Primarily national. We sold in I think when I sold it, we were selling in 41 states,
wow,
plus Canada, and a little bit overseas, not much. We had a website, so we sold people in Guam and all over the place.
What was the name of your business?
LEM Products.
LEM Products.
We sold meat processing equipment, grinders, knives, seasonings, casings. We had over 800 products. So I was very fortunate. The good Lord blessed me, but, you know. And when we sold it, I worked for him for a year and a half, and then I retired.
And then what do you do now? Like, do you
I
still?
take Brody to St. X every day and pick him up every day and run other grandkids to basketball games in school and try to fish, try to hunt.
All right, because yeah, Brody tells me you still make deer meat and.
Yeah, that's part of our season. That's the seasoning that we make that with. It was a major step back. I mean, it's not step back, but it was a major adjustment when I was so busy working 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day, running a business, and then I went from that to nothing. I kind of missed the challenge. I didn't have anything to challenge me. So about 3 years ago, I was asked to take our church festival in our parish because it was kind of going down the tubes. So I took that. I just said yes, I would do it. So I took that over and got a committee together, and after 3 years, we were netting on the festival what we used to gross. So I decided, okay, it's pretty much straightened out. And I got a younger guy who was more active, not more active, but knew more people in the parish and more attuned to the kids in school and stuff. He's taking it over this year.
So when you first decided to retire, how do you feel like that big time void that you didn't have anymore of working? Besides like the 3 years later, you said you did the parish. But what else did you do to basically fill that?
Well, I was always involved in the parish. I'm on the finance committee at the parish. I always worked the parish festival, not as a chairman, but I ran the beer booth for about 8 or 9 years, and stayed involved in those kind of things. And my wife and I added on to our house when we sold the business. That took about almost a year. So I was involved in that. And again, I tried to hunt and fish when I could. I take care of, we've got 28 acres of property, so I take care of that, stay busy with that. Still don't really feel, because we're so busy, I always say, how did I have time to work when I did all this stuff before?
All right, so I'm just gonna ask you about some other things,
Okay.
probably in history. So, just music-wise.